Oh, welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you. I need a little extra dancing time today. I missed our music. I missed you.
Yeah, I've been missing dancing with you too. I was like, we used to dance before every meeting. Like, I'm looking forward to dancing with Christine. So that was beautiful.
How are you, my friend?
I've been grateful, and that's what I've been holding on to. Today, we're talking about emotional and mental wellness. And we know
Mhm.
there's a lot going on. I've been doing better at what you talk about, not letting one body hold it. So, been grounding, been working through stuff, looking at my emotion wheel and trying to being specific on naming the emotion. Where are you at? So, it could be a
Mhm.
teacher and remembering to be grateful to have the opportunity to talk about all these things, podcasts and businesses and shifts by the shore out here by the Jersey Shore and temperatures changing. Just flying with the breeze is what I've been working on. What about
Mm.
you?
Oh, I am so grateful. Coming back from this 3-week wind call residency, it has
Mm,
just been amazing. It's hard to put into words. I did write a lot while I was gone, so I may read you something in a little bit. I didn't know if you
okay.
want to do it before or after our original our intro. So, what do you want to do?
I think we do it before you bringing it up. Let's do a creative intro and then we can go into our amazing conversation we're about to have.
All right, let's do it.
Yes.
So this is the kind of a compilation poem I wrote. Sanctuary on the Hood. Welcomed by the blooming dogwoods, alders, firs, redwoods, and Pacific madrones, making our way to somewhere new and unexpected, a foray into rest in a place that would quickly become beloved. Warm tree houses where nature envelops and enlivens, the trails to the beach marked with shells and painted rocks, tiny art from previous visitors inviting us to imagine and play, gifts to eat from the sea, oysters, crabs, gooey duck clams, it's a thing. Fiddlehead ferns prepared expertly by Chef Michael, kayaking with the curious harbor seals and jellyfish parades, purple, red, orange starfish, so much seen and unseen below, foraging for oyster mushrooms and things we need to leave behind, grief from our losses with life, our work, and the world, nature and spaciousness a balm to weary souls, every day seeking and finding joy, witnessing sunlight at dawn through the thick, majestic forest and divine sunsets over the Cascade Mountains, sitting with Mount Rainier in the distance from the morning bench. Time to watch the clouds go by, dragons, dreams, and phoenixes, resting in the hammocks on the deck and in community with warm lit jellyfish and salmon, dinner conversations for connection and care, creating art and rituals together, strangers no more, experiencing the magic of a nighttime kayak, sparkling moonlight under the sea, phosphorescent plankton, and neon jellyfish. Long walks listening and talking with the trees and the birds and the bees, picnics and riding by the beach, seeking and finding the eagle's nest and glimpses of their awe inspiring flights, prayers and intentions being lifted up on their wings, interacting with animals on the land and the sea and sky and the Kimcron's animal spirit deck, hot saunas, cold plunges, and yoga, plus eccentrics, walks, and healthy food to nurture our bodies. Puzzling and reading on the gray days, listening to the soft falling rain, and looking at all the pieces of who we are and how we arrived here in this instance. What does this moment in time call forth in and for each of us? 3 weeks of being held in beauty and grace within the sanctuary of the Hood Canal. Truly a gift given and gratefully received. Thank you.
Oh, you are welcome. Beautiful. Beautiful. I don't think we snap anymore, but I'm snapping. I think I'm outdated, but, that poem is not, okay?
Right?
Beautiful
Thank you, friend.
job.
Thank you,
Yes.
friend.
I feel that needs to go in volume 3 before the environmental wellness section.
Oh, okay.
What you
Yeah, I
think?
might
You
have
are
to. I
welcome.
could adapt it. Yeah,
I would say it
I
was
could do
long,
it.
but we can use the space for you. I
Yeah,
think we run
yeah.
it. We can talk about it.
I got another one I'll share with you later, but yeah, it
Please,
was
both.
such a powerful trip,
Mhm,
and that place, the Pacific Northwest, is just magical. We took one day trip that went up
mhm,
to the northwesternmost point of the contiguous US, like the tippy top, like where you're up, where you've kind of run parallel, you've passed Victoria, Canada, you've
right,
passed the like you're up British Columbia, but you're at the tippy-most point, and that is indigenous land that
mm,
has been held by indigenous people for the
mm,
entirety of this country,
mm,
and it powerful. Like, we got up there, I mean, that day was kinda rainy and cold, but there was an eagle sitting on these, like, majestic cliffs, like, with the caves, like, the stuff you see in the movies, right? And
yes.
here's an eagle just sitting there fishing. Like, it was incredible. Yeah,
Wow,
it was, my my soul really needed the awe, like the
yeah,
break from work, but also just the awe and how much there was, and remembering how abundant and how beautiful the earth is. Like, I was in the Hoh, rainforest,
right,
uh, in the Olympic National Park on Earth Day,
mm,
and, like, the power of that was just, I mean, I try to put it into words, but it was just magical. So, thank you for asking and
yeah,
listening and receiving. So,
absolutely. Thank you for sharing. You are such a big reminder of looking at the beauty, you know? And our guest today, in her TED Talk, she talks about 1 mile per hour winds and the blades of grass moving, and I love
mm,
watching the blades of grass move.
mm,
That reminds me of what you were talking about, the clouds, just watching nature, you know?
right?
It helps ground
Well,
me.
I took 2,000 pictures. Like, I gotta probably
Send me some
more,
pictures.
honestly, probably more. When we were in the Olympic
That's
National
hilarious.
Park,
Uh,
there was this pullout, and I
right.
didn't think we were gonna see anything because 'cause we're there in April, and the salmon run
Mhm.
in the summer. But
Okay.
we literally saw a salmon jumping up the stream, like this
Mm.
11-foot jump. Like,
Oh,
it
wow.
was so I have 1,000 pictures just of this stream trying to catch the salmon.
Send them to me. I'm that person. We are the same person, like, y'all, I was not taking selfies, like, even on disposable cameras, I'm taking pictures of the trees when we're doing
Right?
going over the
Oh,
rapids, like, that's
there's
me.
probably 1,000 pictures of trees,
Yep,
2,000 pictures of rocks.
yep,
Every time I saw a heart shape in nature, like,
yeah,
I could have a,
yes,
I'll put you on the shared album so you can see,
thank
and
you.
I've gotta process those, but yeah,
Okay.
it was magical, and shout out to my cohorts, Deetra and Melanie, like,
Mhm,
they were definitely were strangers when I picked them up from the airport, but after 3 weeks together, definitely not strangers, amazing humans and friends, so,
thank you,
yeah,
God.
it
Mm,
was really lovely, and,
good.
do you know what a gooey duck is?
No, I
The
was gonna
gooey duck
ask you,
clam?
tell me. No,
Okay,
tell me
so
about
it's
it.
spelled geoduck,
Geo
Geoduck. You're gonna have to look them up. It's one of the
Okay,
most phallic clams you've ever seen in your life. Like, you're just gonna
valid. What does that
but
mean?
it means it looks like a penis.
Okay.
So
Okay, yeah, yeah, got it. Got you.
the neck does it. So, but they're only in certain parts of the world, and where we
Okay.
were was where they were, and then you can only find them when the tide is at a certain level. And
Nice.
then it's a really big deal to dig them because once they know you're digging for them, they're digging down at the same time you're digging.
Oh,
And
wow.
so they're a delicacy. And
Mm,
we had a chef that would come in and cook for us every other day.
mm.
And when he found out I had found a gooey clam, like, he lost his mind. He's from LA, and he was like, "Wait, what? You did what?" I'm like, "Yeah, you want me to show you?" And he was
Let's
like,
go, chef.
yes."
Yes.
And I had also foraged oyster mushrooms, and he was like, "You did
Mhm.
what?" Because
Yeah,
I'm a farm girl from Texas, so I'm
get
like,
it.
if there is food provided from the
Come
earth,
on.
we are going to taste it, right? And
Mhm.
so I took the chef foraging for oyster mushrooms and
Nice.
then digging gooey duck clams, and he
Mm,
said it was the highlight of his trip that he got to dig gooey duck clams, clean them, and prepare them for us for a
yes,
clam chowder later
yes.
that day. He was,
Mhm.
so,
What's
it
his
was
name?
awesome. Chef
Thank you,
Michael
Chef
from
Michael.
LA, and,
Yes,
oh, phenomenal,
that's how
just
you take
so
care of the guests.
nurtured, and yeah, right, it was so good. And,
Mm.
his pictures will be in there, and I just said, "Just give
Okay.
me credit on your cookbook," because he's working on
Yeah,
a
no, for
cookbook.
real.
I said, "This is
Yeah.
going in the cookbook." He's like, "You know it's going in the cookbook. I forged these bad boys."
Yeah, and you know we love oyster mushrooms, so that
Ooh.
the clouds, the oyster mushrooms, the
Wait
pink,
till you
the purple and
see
orange jellyfish.
Oh my
Wait till I
god.
see what.
Wait till you see the pictures of the oysters and
Okay.
mushrooms. Like, I
Oh.
mean, I was walking, I squealed in the middle of the forest because it was it's just like something you see in the movie. It was
Oh,
so stunning.
squeal.
I was
This is your
like,
life,
yeah, my life. I'm so
and
grateful that this is
it's
my
go
life.
it's gonna
And
continue to exceed expectations.
thank you, Wind's Call.
Yeah,
We'll put that in our show notes for folks to check out. If
yeah,
you are community organizers and activists, check out this organization. They believe in rest for leaders. They believe in resets and taking the time to have awe and beauty in order to lead your community. And so grateful for the opportunity. And so many resets, right? Resets on some
nice.
of my practices and my writing practices, my yoga practice, like all that. It was truly. I think I may have said it before I left, but to be noted again.
Mm,
I was talking with Joe, and I don't think I well, I know I hadn't had a break like this for myself
mhm,
in since I was 17 years old.
mm.
Like, the only break, that 3 weeks of time off work had been when I'd had my 2 kids, and that's not a break.
I
Like,
was about to ask, ma'am, excuse me, I have a
it's
question.
a different kind of work, right? And
Absolutely.
so just also realizing that as women,
Yeah,
how, like, it's very rare that we take that much time for ourselves, and then you think, really, 3 weeks is not that much time
no,
in a matter of that's 4 decades of my life.
mhm.
To dedicate 3 weeks to myself, like, wait a second,
So I
right?
know that we're about to go into emotional and mental wellness.
Right.
Where did you get with that? Because you know me as your business partner, I've been having
Mhm.
this conversation. So
Right?
now that you were there, where did you end up? How did it land for you?
Well, it was delightful because,
Mm,
I've been doing a lot, and our listeners know I've been doing a lot of grieving the last 5 years. There's been so much. I mean,
mm,
the good news is, like, I've been doing it along the way, so it wasn't like I've been storing it. I've been doing my practices. There was a little bit of that. But,
yeah,
my people were so present with me because I tell them in stories. I tell them, like, in my life.
yes.
Um, I did some grief ritual while I was there, which felt
Mhm,
very lovely. Like, I didn't struggle at all with the being off the grid for 3 weeks. I thought I would
good.
have trouble. About a weekend, I got a little restless about
Okay,
work and
okay.
not being in touch with you, not being in touch with my inner players. Like, I
Mhm.
felt restless, so I just went on a long walk with nature, and the birds were
That's
like,
not
"Yeah,
wrong.
we got this." Um,
Beautiful.
but,
Yes.
it's yeah, I think it was so needed just to be. And
Yeah.
I mean, and that land, especially, like, there was a rocky shore, there was the Salish Sea, and
Mm,
just a peace and quiet that's hard to get in the city. It's so that part of just being with nature and not technology was,
mhm,
oh, a beautiful reset. Like that, I just feel like replenished and nurtured and committed to having weekends, at least 1 weekend a month, technology free and, like, going camping or being like, this morning,
mhm.
I had a couple of hours and I went to the river and just sat and was like, "I'm bringing these practices back about not
Mm,
always having to be connected."
mm.
Um, which, we are women connected in wisdom, so we like to be connected, but
Yeah.
also
Love it.
that
Excuse me.
yeah, that balance. Oh.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm proud of you for that. I know we talk about practices and when we're traveling and when we're not and what that looks like. So super excited to hear you at the river this morning instead
Mhm.
of chock full of appointments and meetings and doctors. And now we're with the water and the
Right?
sky.
I
Yeah.
did go to my chiropractor first after all
Okay.
this travel.
Beautiful.
Chiropractor, then rivered, but yes,
Nice.
I did.
But you gave yourself the break in between,
I
and
did.
that's
I
better.
did.
Yeah.
Well, and, and people who know me
Mhm.
know that, like, my schedule is really packed, and I'm trying to ease a little bit of that the work will still get done.
It will.
but I just need to put some more spaciousness in for
Mhm.
times like the river and yeah. Well,
Yeah.
all right. How about we do our intro and get our
Mm.
guest up here? Let's do
Yeah,
this.
let's do it. Okay, y'all, I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur, an Amazon bestselling publisher, author, and all natural product manufacturer. I'm a champion for your natural self care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, best-selling author and publisher, and a dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Together, we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community.
We like to get together every week with special guests for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness.
hmm
And today we're talking about emotional and mental wellness.
Yes.
Big topic right now with everything going on in the world, especially.
Mhm.
So I want to give our listeners the definition and us jump right in here.
Yes.
Emotional and mental wellness is about being aware and intentional of our feelings in all situations. It includes having the capacity and tools to handle and express these emotions in a healthy manner and the ability to learn and grow from experience. Emotional well being encourages autonomy, useful decision making skills, and striving toward good mental health.
Oh, I can't wait to have this conversation. And I know we always feel like that, but what stood out for me in our definition was the capacity, having the
Mhm.
tools, right? Like, how do we make sure that we have that at different stages of life? That's part of what we're talking about today. How do you feel about me? Go ahead and read in our guest bio.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, y'all. Today we are talking to Alicia Maples. And Alicia Maples is an entrepreneur and business consultant who gave a gripping TEDx talk where she shared her inspirational story of trauma and survival, having lost her parents' time and attention to the care of one brother with profound autism and another brother to terminal illness. Alicia has been interviewed by NBC News Daily, CNN.com, Care.com, and her TEDx talk has been cited in over 40 articles for her expertise in glass children. Alicia works internationally, delivering keynotes and facilitating conferences for mental health professionals, diagnosis specific organizations, and the medical community. Welcome to the stage, Alicia.
Ah,
Thank you for having me, ladies, and for
Yes.
featuring this topic. And Christine, I think I got a little reset just listening to you talk about your reset.
oh,
hmm
thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, my group that I teach on Tuesdays for my radical self and community care class for caregivers, they asked me to read something I'd written and I wrote it and they were like, and it was the different poem. It was the one that took people on a walk and they were like, you took us with you. And I was like, that's what I love for my poetry to do. And that was one of the things, Shannon, you were asking about the emotional and mental.
Yeah.
When I went through so much grief and loss and was doing so much caregiving, which I know, Alicia, you can relate to, my poetry kind of went away. And I was like, wait, where'd that go? And it was a capacity issue. So, this for me, sitting myself down in nature and allowing that to come back and cultivating it was I know my soul was happy because it's one of my practices that brings me joy, so,
Yes, I
um
hear you. Yes, and Alicia, I'm so excited to talk about caregiving with you because Christine's book about caregivers taught me a statistic that I was surprised and alarmed to
Mhm.
hear, right? That years after caregiving, a caregiver's immune system is still um, exposed and in
Right.
danger, is compromised. Thank you. So when we're talking about glass children and
Mhm.
how they're caretakers for a long time, we usually don't think about children as caretakers.
Mhm.
But, part of the conversation I want to have with you is how do we give them tools and resources for their emotional well being as they're going through these difficult situations with their
Yeah.
family?
Such a good point. And Forbes did an article last year, and I just want to read the statistic to you that the National Alliance for Caregiving and AARP estimates that more than 5.4 million young people in the US provide care to a family member. That's roughly 1 in 14 children. Now, there's not a lot of breakdown or statistics available as to how much of that is sibling care versus parental care, but parentification is one of the hallmarks of the glass child experience.
Wow. And
Mm.
so when you say 1 in 14, thank you for sharing that specific example. That to me tells me, okay, 2 children in every average size classroom, and probably more than that with the size of the classrooms that we're hearing as they increase right now where we are in 2026, right? So that impacts every single classroom, every
Yeah.
single almost every single group of children that you're talking to.
Correct. And teachers play such an important part in intervention in helping glass children if they know what to look for. Go ahead, Christine.
I want you to define it for our audience, because I know this is a topic that's underrepresented, and a lot of people may be listening and say, "What is a glass child? Will you
Right.
please define that for me?"
Absolutely. What the heck are we talking about right now? For sure. So, a glass child is a child who has a high needs sibling. And I'll explain what a high needs sibling is in just a second. But basically, their sibling has so many issues that it consumes all the time and attention of the parents so that the glass child isn't seen. We are called glass children not because we're fragile. That's one of the things that many people think that, oh, well, we break easily. No, we're actually incredibly strong as children. That catches up with us later in adulthood. But as children, we're incredibly strong because we are carrying so much of what is happening in the family. We're called glass children because our parents see through us as though we are made of glass. So that's why we're called glass children. And then to talk about what I mean when I say high needs sibling, the term used to be special needs, but even the disability community has really rejected that term. High needs is more inclusive. So that can be a child that has a cognitive disability or delay, a child that has some kind of a physical impairment, a child that has behaviors that are extremely disruptive. They can be substance use disorder or some type of violence, or it can be a child that has a chronic or a terminal illness, or even a short term illness, like a 3 to 5 year illness, let's say, that does get better, but there's still trauma that happens within the family during those 3 to 5 years. So the glass child is paired with a high needs sibling.
Mm. Thank you for that definition. I mean, very clear that the minute you said that about the short-term illness, I thought about, a lot Atlanta's Children's Hospital and how many hundreds or thousands of kids that are in the hospital dealing with cancer or other illnesses. And I think about those professionals and your work and them needing to know, because
Right.
whether it's short term or the whole life, like, you're right, like, such an impact on the family and the family system, um and I also just have to call my dad's name real quick, because when you said that about seeing through, anytime we would stand in front of the TV, he'd be like, "Your daddy wasn't a glassmaker. I need you to move."
Shout out to Mr. Linden. Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'll say to add to what you said, Christine, because there are some patterns that we see, and I do need to add this: the term glass child. This is not a clinical diagnosis. This is not something that you're going to find anywhere in the DSM. I honestly cannot tell you who first originated this term. I tried to find it before I did my TEDx talk way back in 2010, couldn't find it, still haven't found it, but it has been popularized through my TEDx talk. And thousands of people have been in touch with me over the years saying what an impact having a name for their experience has. But so having said that, this is not an official diagnosis. And let me also say that definitely every sibling, every glass child's experience is nuanced, right? However, there are some common themes to the glass child experience several traumas that are very common. And you mentioned one of them, which is witnessed or vicarious trauma. So, for example, we know what happens to soldiers when they're at war and they're in the field, and they themselves may not have been injured, but they see others who are injured or killed. It took our country a long time to get to the point where they recognized this is an issue and this needs to be addressed and we need to help people. This is happening. Witnessed vicarious trauma is happening to children all over the world, particularly when their sibling has, although not exclusively, but particularly when their sibling has some type of medical condition. There's something that's called hospital waiting room kids or hospital kids. And these are kids. I interviewed a woman for my podcast, super successful, PhD, has her own medical practice. And her sister was gravely ill for several years. Her best friends all died because her best friends were the kids in the children's hospital, right? So that is one of the 5 most common types of trauma that accompany the glass child experience.
That's just heartbreaking.
I know.
It makes sense.
It makes sense, but I had never thought about that before.
Yeah.
That is just truly heartbreaking. Now, I know you have a lot of insight, you have a lot of resources. You have been really trying to get the word out about this.
Yeah.
What do you want to say to folks? When you really, so first of all, as a glass child yourself, our audience loves authentic stories and resources. And I know you have a ton of both. So what do you want to say to glass children?
What I want to say to glass children is that you're not alone and it's not your fault. Guilt and shame are 2 of the very common things that adult glass children carry with them throughout their lives. They felt enormous responsibility as children to care for the well-being of their siblings, to care for the well-being even also of their parents at the neglect of themselves. And so there is a commonality that we grow up believing that a lot of things that happened in our home when we were kids is our fault. And so one of the things that I want to say is it's not your fault. You were a child. You were a child and you didn't have the support or the resources to help you grow and develop. You didn't have what you needed to be nurtured, and it's not your fault. The other thing that I want to say to adult glass children is there is help that's available to you, and please seek it. We in the United States don't have a good diagnosis. It's not in the DSM here for childhood trauma. What glass children go through is very aligned with what the European Union calls complex PTSD. And so finding someone to help you through that is going to be important because there are also a lot of commonalities to what adult glass children end up having to deal with. So find someone who is childhood trauma informed as a therapist, as a counselor, as a support for you. And then I'll show you 2 books that I think are fantastic.
Oh, we love books on this
We
show.
love
And we will also put them in the show notes too.
Yes, yes.
Let me hold this up. The Body Keeps the Score.
Yep.
Or this is not new on your show, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. And then one that just came out from Australia by a young woman who is an animator, and she created a graphic memoir. I haven't finished it. I just got it last week. I'm halfway through it, and I cannot put it down. Let's see if the audience can see it. It's called Oh Brother, a graphic novel.
And her name is Georgina.
Chatterton. Let me put it back up.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Georgina.
Chatterton.
Georgina
Thank you.
Chatterton.
Okay.
Phenomenal book about how she grew up with a brother on the autism spectrum disorder. So, just a few resources there. I would also mention this really isn't a plug, even though it may sound like it, but my podcast has
Yeah.
stories from other adult glass children that will be very helpful to you, as well as guest experts, of whom Christine is one. And so you'll find some assistance there as well.
Yeah. And feel free to plug your podcast. It's an incredible podcast.
Intentional
It,
plug.
it is
Thank you.
very incredible. Before the show, we were talking about that when you talk about glass children, there are always 3 types of people in the audience.
Mhm.
And we spoke to the glass children. So tell our audience who the other 2 people are
Sure.
and what you want to say to them.
Absolutely. So one of the other groups is practitioners.
Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about 3 groups really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all 3 steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off. The oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. You know, the story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade, and it smells great, y'all. So
yes, esthetician
yay.
tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, you know, I work with individual coaching clients. I work in community classes and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. You know, especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
So tell our audience who the other 2 people are
Sure.
and what you want to say to them.
Absolutely. So one of the other groups is practitioners. So folks like you, right? So you're the healers. I call myself the light bearer. I'm the person who's shining the light on the dark underbelly of what's happening in high needs families' homes. I'm the one that's shining the light and talking about the things that nobody else really wants to talk about or really doesn't want to be revealed. But you all are the healers. You're the facilitators for healing. And so what I want practitioners to know, this is going to sound funny, but it's also not your fault that you don't see us. In the United States, there is a deficit in higher education around family systems theory with regards to siblings. I've spoken to masters of social work classes, colleges and universities, professors, department heads. In the curriculum, there is rarely anything mentioned about when you go into a family's home or when you're treating a family, take a look at the sibling. And so what I want practitioners to understand is that there is another person or persons in that family that need assistance. And just because we look okay, it doesn't mean that we are okay. We are masters at masking. In fact, when you were reading, Christine, the definition of emotional and mental well-being, in my head, I was going, this is exactly what glass children struggle with. We are not in touch with our emotions. There's a lot of alexithymia that happens because we have practiced and we're so good at distancing ourselves from how we feel because that's how we survived our trauma. So a practitioner can walk into a family situation and look at everybody and look at the glass child and say, oh, one less person I need to think about, one less person I need to worry about. Not understanding that they're going through parentification, emotional neglect, vicarious trauma, even sibling domestic violence. These are all things that happen in high needs families' homes. So, go.
And I want to agree with you 100% because I have my bachelor's and master's in social work, and really it wasn't addressed. It was for me early as a baby social worker, I worked in foster care and adoption and got a crash course in that because especially with families that had multiple foster kids and having special high needs, because that language has changed in that last 30 years. But that it is really true. It's like often it is the person that's acting out that gets the most attention or in crisis. And so thank you for that message to practitioners and being really clear. Like even if they look like they are probably not statistically they are not okay.
They're not okay. They're not
Yeah.
okay. They are dying on the inside for someone to ask them, how are you? Little Alicia, I remember when somebody would come to the house and actually talk to me, or my aunt. She had such a great impact in my life. She would call and I'd say, "Oh, hey, Aunt Sherry, you want to talk to mom?" And she's like, "No, I called to see how you are." And I remember just feeling as a child, just stunned and overwhelmed with joy because somebody actually saw me. And I will say for practitioners that you have to do some digging. It's not something like a one and done. You ask one question and the glass child's just going to tell you everything that's going on because we are programmed to not even understand that what we're going through isn't normal. It's so normalized for us that it doesn't look like trauma, feel like trauma. It's just Tuesday, right? Also, some of what can happen is there's a lot of shame within the family. And sometimes parents discourage us from talking about the things that are happening in the home. So we're not certain what we can or what we can't talk about. We're not certain if we even have the right to the feelings that we have. And so it's going to take coaxing and help to get that out of us.
Thank you for
Thank you.
naming that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of my questions. You were talking about your workshops that you offer on your website.
Mhm.
And I love how it says you help clients break free from the hardships of the past and just naming it and knowing that it might not be comfortable to say at first. I was really not taken aback, but really appreciative of your bravery in your TED Talk to say what you said. And I saw you take a minute, with where you got with everything. And I would love for us to unpack what you're talking about the struggle with this emotional wellness, because we are at that place with so many people where they're thinking about not being here and nobody knows. So can you tell us what does that effective mask look like?
Sure. So again, there isn't a lot of research about us. There's more that's coming out about siblings, glass children. There isn't. So what I'm going to share with you is purely anecdotal. Last year, when I decided to do a podcast about glass children, I'm kind of an all or nothing person. And so I decided to interview 21 adult glass children in, I don't know, 15, 17 weeks,
Okay.
which, wow, as someone who's healing herself,
Right.
um, it was like a jackhammer to
Yeah.
what I've buried under 10 feet of
Oof.
concrete. I mean,
Okay.
my husband's a saint. Let me just let me just say that.
Yes. I
But
hear you.
so the reason that I'm bringing this up is these 21 people that I interviewed, and this is so important for people to understand, ages 20 to 72. So think about all the generations there from 11 different countries and 6 different continents. So now add in the variable of culture. Like what happens in Chile is different from what happens in Ireland, right? What happens in North Africa is different from what happens in the United States.
Right.
So we have the variable of age, different generations. We have the variable of culture. We have the variable of different sibling diagnoses. So autism spectrum disorder was very common. We had some with bipolar. I interviewed some who had their siblings had legitimate psychotic breaks, cerebral palsy. Like, okay, so all those variables and the same results over and over again in adulthood. Number one, suicidal ideation, starting at a young age, self-harm, disordered eating, substance use disorder, and toxic, dangerous relationships. And I want to explain that one for just a second. When we grow up as glass children, and again, this isn't everybody's experience, but this is a lot of the population's experience. We are, and I am not casting blame on parents with this statement, I'm just naming it, okay? We are programmed that our value and our worth come from how well we take care of other people. And so we want to be good little boys, good little girls, because we want our parents' approval. We love them, but also because we want to help. We see what's going on in the family. We love our siblings, but we are conditioned to believe that our self-worth and sometimes even our purpose on this planet is to take care of other people. So unless there's intervention in that, we grow into adults who seek what kind of relationships? Relationships with people who need to be taken care of. And oftentimes those people are not healthy. They are not helpful. They are more than happy to reaffirm to us that our feelings don't count, our feelings don't matter. So we see a lot of domestic violence, a lot of sexual assault in relationships as these glass children grow into adulthood because of early childhood programming.
Thank you for sharing that. That makes sense. And I want to speak to as well how much work you've done in this topic, right? We cite the first woman who started the 8 dimensions of wellness. So I hear what you're saying. I looked for the name, haven't found another name. My name is on it. Alicia, thank you for your research, across the countries and the cultures. And we, especially with our hybrid publishing company, definitely understand the similarities of the same questions that people are asking even across generations, cultures, religions, and these different things. Where do I belong? What does my story look like? Do I have anything to offer? And I was surprised to hear that as a hybrid publisher. So it makes sense with, a group of people who have this experience growing up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Christine, you mentioned you wanted to hear about the third type
Yeah,
of.
I was just about to ask that question.
Yes.
Great segue. Go for it.
So again, anytime I'm speaking, these 3 are in the room somewhere. It's the practitioners, it's the adult glass children, And third, the parents. And it's parents who have no idea that their kids are hurting. And I'm going to tell you, I have a lot of compassion for parents. I am not I'm not a parent shamer. I've gotten actually quite a bit of flack from the glass child community because I'm not harder on parents. But I also understand from watching my own parents, like nobody asked for this, right? I, as a glass child, didn't
Right.
ask for this.
Right.
My brothers didn't ask for it. My parents didn't ask for it. So
Right.
parents who they have no idea that their kids are hurting because they're so overwhelmed. There are so few resources for them. And we do a good job. We do a great job of masking. Um, there are parents who are estranged from their adult glass children and they don't know why until we talk about it. And they go, oh, this was what it was like for, I didn't even think about it. I had this experience last week. I was speaking at a college and to the Masters of Social Work class. And a woman, bless her heart, she broke down in the middle of the Q&A and shared that she did not realize until that very moment, that conversation, that her 2 adult daughters were glass children. And she looked at me with tears streaming down her face and said, I never asked them if they were okay. And my answer to her was, it's not too late. You still can.
Right.
You never ever have to say again, I didn't ask my kids if they were okay. You can still ask. Parents who did the best that they could, but it wasn't enough to save the mental and emotional well-being of their kiddos. So parents are typically in the room, and I imagine that parents are also listening to this podcast. And what I want parents to know is what I just said. It's not too late. And if you don't know how to bridge the gap between yourself and your children, let's talk about adult glass children for a minute. And there's distance because I get a lot of inquiries from parents who have estranged children who've gone no contact. What feedback I've received is that a very neutral way to introduce this topic of conversation is to text your kids my TEDx talk and say something very simple like, what do you think about this? And you will be able to gauge very quickly whether your child is ready to talk about it, not ready to talk about it. It opens a door rather than you saying, I just found out about this thing called glass children. And is that you? And is that how you feel? And is this how you grew up? I mean, like, we don't want to do that, right? Especially if there's already distance between you and your child. So this is a neutral way to introduce the topic and to allow them to take their time with it and to understand.
Well, and I would imagine they might need to process because they may not even know they were glass children. Like
Yes.
they may not know. And to your point earlier about practitioners not knowing, their practitioners could have given them bad advice. Like their practitioners could have been the ones like asking for recommending the distance so there's so many layers there, right?
It's super laminated. And to your point, Christine, I interviewed a woman from the United States. I believe she's 65. She's in her 60s. She tried to get help from a mental health professional at least 3 times. And each time she was asked a variation of this question in session. Well, have you ever thought about how your sibling felt?
Wrong question.
Thank you.
Wrong question. Yeah.
Yeah. So, to parents of littles, that's what I like to call them. To parents
Oh,
of littles, you've got to get help for yourself. Like, nobody prepared you for this. when you found out the diagnosis, or maybe you don't even have a diagnosis. That's another thing that happens. There are not diagnoses, right? But you didn't get to take a bunch of classes about how to do this. Like nobody said to you, hey, look, the chances of your marriage falling apart are like this exponential. Or here's you didn't know. And so I choose to believe, parent, that you are doing the best that you can do, and you need to get help for yourself. You need to do what Christine was talking about. You need to take a reset for yourself. And in countries all over the world, there are things called respite. Take advantage of that and take time for yourself because, to use an overused metaphor, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to have something to pour into all of your children. And if your cup is empty, what is that going to be? And the other thing I want you to know, parents, is you have to ditch the guilt and the shame. Like I talk to parents all the time who blame themselves, especially moms. Like, was it something that I ate when I was pregnant that caused this to happen? Or was it my genetics from a dad that caused my child to have this issue? Or my grandfather was a drinker. Is that why my son is an alcoholic? Like, stop that. That is not helpful. That's not helpful to you. It's not helpful to your kids. And the last thing for parents would be get your kids into therapy, not your therapist, because I've heard these stories, not your other child's therapist, their own therapist. And again, you want a therapist who is, I know this hurts and I'm sorry, but who is childhood trauma informed. Your child is experiencing trauma. Parents, listen to me on this. Your child sees everything that you see, is experiencing everything that you're experiencing, is feeling everything you're feeling, the fear, the worry, but with the processing skills of a child. And if you want a relationship with your child into adulthood, if you don't want your child to develop disordered eating, substance use disorders, if God forbid to end their own lives, get your kid into therapy today. It will help.
Yeah. And I want to say, because today, start looking for the therapist today. Getting them in today is unrealistic because the way of our medical system in the United States. But that's a whole nother show. But I want to ask you, because I'm very picky when I'm helping clients look for therapists or when I'm helping family members look for therapists. I have certain keywords I use. And I've heard you say one already, right?
Yes.
That you want the complex trauma or childhood trauma. Is there any other tags that you would have them search for or look for? Because
Yeah.
I love play therapists. Especially if they're under a certain age, I highly recommend play therapists. And what else would you recommend?
I love the idea of play therapy. I wish that was something that had been available when I was growing up. I think emotional neglect. If you see a therapist that is mentioning something about they specialize in emotional neglect, that's also very important.
Yeah, and I really hear your compassion and I hear your heart in saying to parents it's not your fault. And these words may hurt or may be triggering. And if we turn and look at it and we turn and face it, then that can make it better for everybody. You know, that's and it's hard. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And something that stood out to me as another solution, Alicia, is what you said in your TED Talk that hadn't happened with you in the first 13 years, right? Which was individual time with your parents without the other child there.
Yeah.
And I can imagine parents being past capacity. They don't have time to know when they're going to brush their teeth, much less a conversation with themselves. So it might feel like an extra conversation. I can imagine. my question when I heard you say that was, what would you have liked that time to look like? You're growing up, you're 8 years old, right? How would that have been done in a supportive way for you?
So, there's the childhood fantasy of take me to Disneyland by myself.
Right.
Let me be a princess for 2 days and let's do
Yes.
that. But, it's not realistic.
All the
I
time. I understand.
all the time, yeah. I think if my brothers had been, for example, been put to bed, and because I was the oldest, and my parents just took me outside to sit on the stoop and talk to me for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and they were both there and had capacity to ask me about my day, to ask me how I was doing, to ask me what my feelings were, to reassure me that all feelings are okay, even the big ones, even the unpopular ones, and that I could tell them whatever I was feeling. That would have been glorious, just glorious. And to make sure that that time with me was not them talking about my brothers. But if I brought it up, that they listened to what I had to say and what my perspective about my brothers was, but not that they would bring it up because everything, that's an exaggeration. A lot of things revolved around my brothers. So even a bedtime routine of both of them coming in and tucking me in and reading something to me, um, that would have been so special, Shannon. I think it would have filled me.
Yes.
Mhm,
I understand what you mean. And I understand what you mean about the differentiation about them bringing it up, which is what happens the majority of the
mhm,
time, right? I can only imagine your mom has these bite wounds up her arm, and
mhm,
so she talks about and shares with other people around you. When she's talking to her people what's going on, you need space to say, "Hey, this is my vantage point, and this is how I felt." When you were talking about the holes in the wall, this is how I was feeling when this hole was put in this way.
right.
I can see that helping a lot. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mhm. Great
Yeah.
questions.
Thank
What
you.
really stands out to me about that too, for
Mm,
parents listening,
mm,
is like, of course, the Disney princess vacation would be delightful, but that's really not what your soul needed. You
Mm,
needed 5 minutes a day.
mhm.
And and that's doable if people have intention around it. And it may not be where it could be both parents because they may have to alternate if you've got a kiddo that has to be supervised all the time.
mhm,
But you could alternate. Like, I mean, there's so many. I think what I love about this conversation, Alicia, is the awareness
mhm.
and the fact that if you know better, you do better,
That's true.
right?
And it
And
requires intention.
yeah.
Apologies, did I cut you
No,
off?
no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it requires intention and it requires something uncomfortable for parents. It requires, number 1, acknowledging what I said earlier, that just because your child looks okay doesn't mean that they are okay. And it requires reaching out to community. Like, look, I would say reach out to this service or reach out to that service, but in the United States, our services suck. That's just the bottom line for high needs families. But you have community. You have, I hope, you have family, religious organizations that you're involved in, other places. It's hard to ask for help, but if you are intentional, you would be surprised how many people would be willing to help. They just don't know that you need the help. And I get there's embarrassment about behaviors in the home. People can deal with more than what you think. So if you will allow yourself to be uncomfortable enough to ask for assistance, that can help give you more time for your non-high needs children.
Being vulnerable is what it
Yep.
comes down to. in the
Yeah.
service of everybody in your family.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You said it perfectly.
And that's what I love about Women Connected in Wisdom, which is why you're one of the women connected, right? Because like you said, where else do you go but your research and the work that you've done that's out here for this, category of people and the people who are associated to it on either side, So we talked about Dr. Cynthia Phelps. She has the inner ally card, the deck of cards, yes.
Yeah.
How are you going to be an ally to yourself and pour into yourself and let go of the blame, shame, and guilt that we talk about with the everyday activism with Cecile Armstrong, one of our other ladies, right? So that you can be an ally to yourself, so you can have more capacity and space. Um, you and I think a list of ladies from Women Connected in Wisdom could help people in the United States with some of these soft skills that we, as we call them, but that take up a lot of space in our lives. And these simple tweaks could help fix and repair a lot of relationships.
I agree. And I'll double down on the plug for Dr. Cynthia Phelps. She has actually done quite a bit of work with adult glass children, and she has helped me personally tremendously. So yeah, in list of resources, she is one that I have to highlight. I'm glad you mentioned her.
We'll put her
Yes.
in the show notes. She has been a co-host on our show and a guest a couple of times. Shout out to
And
Dr. Cynthia.
And
Fabulous, fabulous.
and our ladies do Alyssa things. She helped me with my chapter in volume 2. She was on our press team, like amazing, amazing woman connected in wisdom.
Yes, she is.
So, Alicia, every week we share our stories, right? This is what happened. This is where I was. This is my resource now.
Yeah.
We also talk about what are we doing for ourselves to maintain our own wellness intentionally, like you said. So for your emotional and mental wellness this week, what are you working on?
Ooh, that's a
And-
question.
Yeah. And we can go first if you need some help, if you need some more time to figure out what you want to pick from the menu of things.
I can tell you, and I'll just share with the audience. This is the first time I've shared this publicly.
Okay.
My 92-year-old mother, she's going to be 93 in June, just moved in with us. And 5 hours before that happened, I had my first court appearance to become a guardian of my brother Mario. So it's a lot unexpected and happening all at once. And what I'm doing, what's been really helpful for me is journaling. I am being intentional about carving out space to journal about my day, what has happened. And I think at some point it helps me release and process, but I also think it's going to be something for me to look back on and reflect upon at some point in the future. And who knows, maybe it'll help other people.
Yes. I
Thank
think it
you for that.
absolutely will. Yes. Thank you.
Shannon, what are you doing for your wisdom in action this week?
Let's see. Emotional and mental wellness. Let's say hashtag intentionally reflecting. Because exactly what you're talking about, Alicia, I've been working on keeping my gratitudes. I need to hold my journaling time a little bit better during the day. I want to do my gratitudes in the morning and I want to reflect on wins and what I can do better at the end of each day. As an entrepreneur or business owner, I want to do those recaps. You want to follow up with all the stuff at the end and not just numbers or to-do lists or more tasks for work, but where I'm at and what I need and what I can continue to improve on is something I want to include. So hashtag intentionally reflect. What about you, Christine?
Well, I love the journaling theme. One of the things I did a lot over the 3 weeks of break was I journaled. I journaled in the morning, I journaled in the evening, and I'm going to keep up that practice when I'm home. And what I really know to be true about myself is getting outside and in nature. So mine is get outside every day. Like
Nice.
even if it's for 5 minutes, like just listening to the birds, looking at what's blooming in my yard. If I can get to water, even better. You
Yeah.
know, that
Yeah.
part about nature nurtures me, I
Mhm.
think is my hashtag, is just that reminder that nature nurtures me and it's accessible. And I'm grateful about where I live that it's accessible. And so that would be mine. But yeah.
Beautiful. Yes, I love seeing the water on a daily basis now, being by the shore, like, so spoiled. I understand what you mean. Yes.
Alicia, will you tell folks about your podcast too? Because it is an incredible resource and I want people to know about it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. The podcast is called I See Glass Children. So, like you're looking, ISEE, Glass Children. It is on any avenue that podcasts exist, and would love for you to subscribe so that you can better understand what is happening to glass children. If you are any of those three people, if you are a practitioner, if you are an adult glass child, if you are a parent, you are going to get so much out of hearing these stories and hearing from professionals like Christine.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was such a joy to be on your show, and I really just want to say thank you for your work in this field because I know that it's not easy, and I know that you're continuing to heal, and it can be re-traumatizing when you're hearing these stories and witnessing and things are being unearthed that you're like, I hadn't thought about that in 30 years. And holy cow, what? Right? So thank you. Thank you for your personal sacrifices to help other people. It's powerful work you're doing in the world.
Gonna make me
Oh,
tear up.
no, it's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for making space for this topic that
Yeah.
so few people know about and understand. I am forever grateful to both of you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Shannon, you put up
Mm.
Alicia's website, but will you say it out loud? And we will put it in our show notes so people can reach you as a resource. But it is the icglasschildren.com, correct? That's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a contact form on that page. You can reach out to me there and I will respond.
Aw. Thank you,
Oh,
thank you, thank you. We are so grateful to be connected to you, and we just wish you all the best. And y'all, if you're listening to the show and you resonate or you know somebody, even if it's not in your own family, you know somebody. I can guarantee you that. Go ahead, Alicia.
I know we're trying to close out, but I
It's
have
okay.
to say this.
Yeah.
Everybody, everybody knows a glass child.
mhm.
Yep.
You do. You know one. If you
Yep.
know a high needs family, you know a glass child, and you have the chance to impact their lives to be that 1 mile per hour wind,
Mhm.
to impact their trajectory. You can change the world just by changing one life, one glass child's life.
Yes, and I wanna anchor down the 1 mile per hour, right, y'all? Because in this TEDx talk, the difference of the trajectory, we usually measure stuff by feet in the United States, right, was 15 inches. So a little bit, like she's saying, goes a long way, and compound, we can have a better environment no matter what the DNA is, so these children can be centered in a foundation that effectively supports them.
Mm. I just
Yes.
thought about somebody I haven't thought about literally in 40 years.
Who?
That I grew up with. It was one of my
Okay,
best
okay,
friends when
somebody.
I was growing up. It was, a high needs because of medical conditions and passed away very early, and
Mhm,
her sister was also one of my friends, but of
mm,
course she was a glass child.
right.
Like, of course she was.
Yeah. I
And,
thought about somebody I hadn't thought about. Yeah.
right? And so, yeah. And I haven't talked to her in years because we lost touch, but I may be sending your TEDx talk and saying, "What do you think about this?" So,
Nice. Thank you
right?
so
Thank
much.
you.
Ah, thank
Yes,
you,
this has
thank
been good.
you.
Looking
This was
forward
a
to
great
staying connected.
conversation. Yep.
Yeah, yes. Let's talk to you soon, Alicia.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh, so good. So
Oof,
good.
and worth going over, we
Right?
try to keep it at a certain point, but as always, we let our lady speak and, finish it off so our listeners and viewers can get the resources, so super excited to be able to have this conversation. And we talked about it on the coffee and chat, well, what about a glass this and a glass that when people feel unseen in situations? So I'm sure some of our listeners and the people who will download may have that question. I honestly think a lot of Alicia's tools and resources will fit different situations, with people who can start naming some things and intentionally working through some of that childhood trauma. Yeah.
Anything we need to shout out before we close out this show?
Oh, yes, you guys, we have been talking about volume 3. And I don't know when you're hearing this, right? But it is currently April 29th, 2026. Get it? I see you with the shoulder pop. And we're excited. We're excited to lift up these voices. Y'all, these authors are amazing with amazing stories, books published already, right? Resources that are already researched and established. And we have room for you. So tomorrow was supposed to be the last day and doors were supposed to close. We have another week, right? We have actually a little less than a week. If you want to join us or know somebody whose voice you want to be added to our Women Connected in Wisdom, let them know that they have until May 4th. Let's talk about one of the dimensions of wellness, one of your stories and resources that can help. So if you feel like Alicia and, hey, this is very important, we need help today, I have a resource, get connected. We would love to uplift your voice.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
we'll be having our kickoff next Wednesday. And I
Yes.
mean, I love this journey that we take authors on
Yeah.
because not only are they a support for each other, but our first 2 volumes, the resources, the stories, like the feedback we've gotten have just been incredible. Somebody asked me while I was traveling what I did, and I could name off 1,000 things I do, but really
Yes.
what it boils down to is I am a storyteller who uplifts women's voices. And that's what we do on the podcast as publishers, as authors, as speakers. And we want to do that in community with you, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to
Yes.
lift up your voice. And so I am excited about this next journey and I can't wait. And I know we are way over, so we should say
That's
goodbye.
okay.
But
Okay, y'all. We like staying and talking with you, but we got to cut it till next week. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be live at 5 again next week for episode 226. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.